Mrs. Hart was my school counselor here at Lewis Elementary School, and she helped me through a lot of difficult times in school. I would always go into Mrs. Hart's office, and in this office she would sit with me and help me through anxiety, bullying, and reading deficiencies. When I was having trouble with reading proficiency tests, I would go into Mrs. Hart's office for a couple hours, and she would sit with me to make sure I understood concepts. Even though she was not a teacher, she acted like one for me. She also helped me when I would go talk to her about my anxiety. I was only 8 when I realized I was an anxious child, and she would sit with me and let me know how to handle my anxiety. She would give me toys like Silly Putty to play with during school hours to cope with my anxiety and give me a stress relief. She also helped me when I was being bullied on the playground. She sat down with me and the bullies, and we talked about our issues and talked about how to get along nicely. We met with her every week for 8 weeks, and by that end of that, we would all become friends. All this experience with Mrs. Hart have taught me that being school counselors have many roles in schools and inspired me to want to take on these roles in my future. She taught me what a role model in school looks like, someone who is caring, listening, and does not judge. She showed me how to be like that for future students. My experiences with Mrs. Hart has influenced my decision to become a school counselor because she became my role model in school. This related to my interests because I've always been interested in helping people, like when I helped volunteer at many different places in Cleveland with my family every month. Watching Mrs. Hart showed me that I am interested in not only helping people, but more specifically helping kids. Watching Mrs. Hart work also showed me that I have skills to become a school counselor. I've always been a good listener like she was and willing to hear my friends' problems and help solve them. I also realized from this that I need to not learn to be judgmental and listen to everyone with understanding and compassion. This goes along with my value that I have, which are influencing others and being around people who are open and honest. I learned from watching Mrs. Hart she has the ability to influence others and that people will be open and honest with her when they want her help. This was the first time I started thinking about school counseling as a career. Then in high school, I had the opportunity to take my interest in school counseling further when I shadowed an elementary school counselor, Miss Wensendorf, from a school nearby. I also had the opportunity to watch Miss Wensendorf lead a lot of group sessions, and I also had the chance to read to all of their grade the book Rainbow Fitch to teach them about bullying and how not to be exclusive and how it can harm friendships. I learned how important it is and how influential school counselors can be. I was told later that bullying decreased in 3rd grade after my readings. I also helped Miss Wensendorf organize class schedules for the following year on the computer. I learned from this that to be a school counselor you need to be very organized and proficient in using computers. I also helped out Miss Wensendorf before and after school with paperwork and tutoring kids. I learned from this that school counselors work outside of school hours, but they mostly go home at 4. This fits into my value of having a family because school counselors have enough flexible hours that I can have a family and have a job. After this experience, I also realized I have the skills to become a school counselor because I am very organized, which will help me with this job when I have to organize kids' schedules and files. I am also a good planner, which is a skill I will need to have to plan lessons on bullying, drugs, and alcohol, which I saw Miss Wensendorf do. After this, I made a decision I would go to college at Indiana to pursue school counseling. The fall of my sophomore year at IU, I joined the Big Brothers Big Sisters program and mentored an 11-year-old girl from Arlington Heights Elementary School named Haley. We met every week on Fridays, and I would come to school and talk to her about problems. I would help her with issues like friends and tell her how she needs to listen to her friends and not assume what they want to do what she does. I also helped her with some math homework because she struggled most with that subject. After we would talk, we would play on the playground or do some fun things so she would feel comfortable opening up. I learned a lot from this experience, like I need to be patient when working with kids because Haley did not always want to talk about what was going on, so I had to sit and wait with her to open up. I also learned to help Haley and kids without specifically telling them what to do because I was hesitant to give her advice and instead worked with her to figure out how to solve her problems. We'd work together to come up with the solutions. I realized from this experience that I am interested in helping kids, but mainly interested in helping older kids. I really liked working with Haley, but my interest in helping kids with future decisions like college would not be applicable in elementary schools. I also realized from this experience that I have proficient communication skills that will help me when I am working with kids of any age. I also realized after mentoring Haley that I want to be a leader in my life and that leadership is a value of mine. As a school counselor, I'd be a leader and a role model in school just like I was for Haley. One factor in my life that can serve as a privilege or a barrier is being Jewish. This is a privilege because the Jewish community is very close and allows for networking to happen. This affects my career choice because having a community of friends and family supporting me allows me to be confident that I can succeed in a school counseling career. I would not want to work in a school, though, that has no Jewish kids or adults because I want to be surrounded by that Jewish community. This also affects my location, my job, because one of my values is I want to be close to my Jewish family, which means choosing a career that can be placed anywhere, like in Cleveland, which is close to my family. School counselors can be placed in schools everywhere. Even though being Jewish serves as a privilege in my career journey, it may also be a barrier. Anti-Semitism is something that I always have to be aware of when I look for a job in places because they might not want to hire someone who is Jewish. Another barrier besides being Jewish I may encounter is the fact that I am white. This is a barrier because if I want to work in a school that wants a diverse staff, it may be more challenging to be hired because I am white. However, being white is a privilege because the majority of school counselors tend to be white, which may give me more job opportunities and help my value of having a career with many job opportunities and chances for growth. A barrier and privilege is being a woman. This is a barrier because people sometimes don't think women should work, which may affect me getting a job. However, it can also be a privilege because it will establish my value of wanting to help work with people who are open and honest, because kids are usually more willing to open up to females that serve as the mother figure. This also influences my career progression because I will be unable to work at an all-boys school, but I will be able to get jobs at other private and public schools. This relates to my value of location because I have more locations to choose from since many schools will hire females as school counselors. I believe I will overcome the barriers and use the privileges to my advantage to accomplish my career goal of becoming a school counselor.